Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Chrissy here. I hope you're all having a wonderful November. It's coming up to Christmas, a very exciting time of the year. And the second thing I want to say is I'm really sorry that this room is a little bit echoey. It's not been possible for me to arrange some sort of lighting, so hopefully you guys can bear with me. The third and final thing before I start, I just want to say a big massive thank you to everybody that has bothered to go onto my channel and watch my previous random videos, and also the new subscribers. Welcome to my channel and thank you so much. It really means a lot and it's very encouraging to see that you guys are subscribing and engaging in everything that's happening on Chrissy's World. So I'm doing, as you can tell from the title of this video, book review of the books that I've read in the previous month or so. Sit back, get a cup of tea, whatever, and enjoy. So the first book that I'm going to be reviewing today is this one, and it's called Black Like Me by an author called Joan Howard Griffin. This book was published in the 1950s, kind of a journalistic / sociological experiment done by the author. It's an autobiographical account of his experience, and I don't think I could do a better job than reading to you what it says on the front cover about what the book is about. And it says how a white American traveled through the segregated Deep South of the 1950s disguised as a black man. Yes, disguised as a black man. And he went in, guys. He colored his skin black, he went on the sunbeds and everything, just so he could be convincingly black whilst he roamed through the streets of the Deep South. And at that point in time, this was quite a novel idea. Nobody had ever attempted to do something like this. And what spurred the author on to do this, gathering from his Wikipedia page, it seems he spent some time in Europe and witnessed how the Jews were being ostracized for being Jew. And it made him wonder about the problems that he had back at home. He knew that, especially in South America, there was a lot of tension between blacks and whites, and this was done at quite a poignant time in history because this was before the Civil Rights Movement, which is depicted quite famously and quite recently in Selma. The first line of this book really gives you an idea of what really spurred him on and gave him the sort of passion to do this book. So he writes, "If a white man became a Negro in the Deep South, what adjustments would he have to make? What is it like to experience discrimination based on skin color, something over which one has no control?" And that sentence really encapsulates the whole story. He goes into this experiment with a very inquisitive mind. He is open to having discussions with so many different people, varied backgrounds, and uncovers a lot and clarifies a lot for me that I haven't been able to get from literature that is written about that period in time. I absolutely love this book. As you can tell, I've got loads of little page marks on sort of pages that I just thought were absolutely incredible. It's whilst reading this book, I got the feeling that the author was very perceptive and very much self-aware, and a lot of what he experienced in terms of the psychological trauma is really quite jarring and upsetting, but it feels very authentic. The author seems to be telling the story from a place of an observer, but also somebody who's living the experience because he was being treated as a black man. It has a sort of journalistic feel about it, and it makes sense because the author was a journalist, so it's kind of like divided in sections which follow a chronological order of the time that he spent in the Deep South. And obviously some of the language that he uses is reflective of that time, i.e. he uses the word Negro, but nonetheless I thought it was a very powerful account. For me, I think this book really clarifies 3 key points. The first one is, I've always sort of wondered how Christians at that point in time, who fundamentally believe in love and the preaching of treating everybody equally, could justify being racist towards a whole group of people based on color. Something that comes out clearly to sort of answer that, I think Joan Howard Griffin concludes that is really the main reason why people behaved in that way. The second point that he sort of talks about and explores in this book is one of intelligence. at that time, the general sort of belief was that black people weren't intelligent enough or capable of being intelligent to the same level as a white person. And today it seems a little bit more obvious that social circumstances actually determine one's intelligence as opposed to more being genetic. And I also know this mainly because I'm a biology graduate and I studied this in depth in genetics. So for me to read this and have this affirmed makes this book quite poignant. The fact that he, one, goes against the status quo, and then secondly, really spends time with these people, especially to read, for him to be able to come up with that conclusion at that point in time. It must have been extremely difficult, but I think it shows the authenticity of the author as well. And finally, towards the end of the book, he writes in retrospect about his experience as well as what is currently happening. So he was going on talk shows, giving lectures about the sociological experiment that he had done. He writes towards the end, because that was the beginning of the civil rights movement, about some key figures like Martin Luther King and the Greats. And I think that's such a wonderful addition to his book after giving us such a comprehensive psychological journey that he had in the Deep South, to also recognize that there were other black intelligent people who were fighting for rights of black people at that time, which makes this book as well very convincing in its plight and what it's trying to achieve. He was a very brave man. I think he dealt with so much. He was vilified after writing this and actually had to move his entire family to a different country. So much respect for him. I would recommend this book to everybody. I think it's a fantastic book. Definitely struck a chord with me. I love this book. I couldn't rave enough about it. The second book that I'm going to be reviewing today is a reread, and it's 12 Years a Slave by Solomon Northup. This is a very touching and moving narrative of a man in the 1800s, I think mid-1800s, who was captured from the north of America. He was born a free man, but then ended up spending 12 years as a slave in the plantations. It's a very, very gripping novel. I read it in about 2 days, and even when I did a reread, I literally just dedicated a day to reading it again. It's just such an insightful book into the plight of somebody who was captured. It's the sort of narrative that I've never come across at that point in time. Very unique in the fact that I had no idea that in mid-1800s there were actually black men who were born free, and women as well. And so this kind of taught me a little bit about that history, but also in the way that Solomon Northup narrates this story, you can tell that he's very educated and a very perceptive man. He tells the story with such grace, and you can really feel the weight of what he experienced. And another thing that I absolutely enjoyed about this was that Solomon Northup tells the story from a very authentic place, and you can really, really feel the emotion. It's not done in a way that he's trying to evoke emotion. It seems very true to the events that actually took place at the time, and obviously also confirms a lot of what was going on at the time if you've read a little bit more about African American history. It's a very unique perspective on slavery, and it just reminds me of the resilience of the human spirit. They spend 364 days a year working, and then on Christmas Day they're allowed to have fun. And Solomon talks of how they danced all night, he played music, and everybody was in great spirits. And that's so wonderful. Reading that just really lifted my spirit and showed me just how well balanced story is and authentic the author is. So that's something that I absolutely loved. So if you're interested in African American literature, I would definitely recommend this book. The next book, this one, and it is called The Secret Lives of Baba Segi's Wives. It's written by an author called Lola Shoneyin. She was also nominated for the prestigious Orange Prize Award in 2011 for fiction. She's an interesting author. I really, really enjoyed the way she writes this book. And I think through reading it, you can tell that she really is a teacher at heart. So this book is plot-driven. It's about a man who's in a polygamous marriage. He's called Baba Segi, the sort of protagonist of the story. And he has 4 wives, and the last wife is Bolanle, who enters the home, and that's when the story begins. The most helpful page for me in this book was this one. It really helped me sort of keep track of the wives and the children and everything else that was going on, because the names were so unfamiliar to me. I sort of got lost in the book, so that was extremely helpful. I think the author did a wonderful job by trying to illustrate to us what the Lola family setup was like. It's set in Nigeria. You get a real sense of the sort of customs, the culture that surrounds polygamous marriages at this point in time. So this story follows Bolanle especially, and I think she's the character who has the sort of best character progression. I was very gripped by her account of what happened to her. She was abused by the other wives. Halfway through the book, the secret that Bolanle's been holding for such a long time is revealed, and after that you begin to see her sort of healing process. And towards the end of the book, the second plot is also revealed, and it turns out all the wives are holding sort of really deep secrets that could disturb the family dynamic. And as soon as it's revealed, you sort of know where it's going. Now, what is so interesting about the union between Bolanle and Baba Segi is that, by all accounts, these two were people that you could never put together. Bolanle is well educated, she's a university graduate, something which is quite prized in that town. Baba Segi is quite the opposite. He's boorish, he's uneducated, he's kind of a misogynist as well. He's somebody who can basically be described as an oof. And a lot of the humor that is in the book comes from his unintelligent remarks, which, you know, makes it quite a fun read. So it chronicles Bolanle's journey through living with his family and what she experiences. It's wonderfully done. I think this is a great book that you can just pick up and read for pleasure. It's emotional, but not too much. I think it has its moments. There's a few chapters in the middle of the book where the author makes an attempt to try and get you to understand the perspectives of the other wives. So it goes through first-person narrative, so you can really get to understand where the wives are coming from, and it describes their history, basically. And whilst I understand what the author was trying to do at that point, for me, I still didn't really care about the wives. I don't know whether it was just me. That's the only sort of negative I would have about this book. But otherwise, it was a very enjoyable read. Definitely recommend it to everyone. I would say if you are quite a young reader, ask your parents if you can read it, because it does have some sort of sexual references in there. The next book that I'm going to be reviewing, I don't have a physical copy with right now, but it's called The Kind Worth Killing by Peter Swanson. This is the only sort of non-Black, non-African book that I'm going to be doing. It's a psychological thriller, and it's about a chance encounter between two people, Ted and Lily, at Heathrow Airport. And Ted opens up to Lily about his life. He's just found out that his fiancée has cheated on him with somebody who he never expected, but nonetheless, just the idea that his fiancée cheated on him is quite hurtful. He talks about how he feels about this, but then also shares with Lily that he might kill her. He's been thinking about killing her. And Lily basically offers to help him commit the perfect crime. And that's where it all begins. I've never read a psychological thriller, which is one reason why I was attracted to reading this genre of book. And I don't regret it. It was a fantastic read. It's very much plot driven, and each chapter is narrated by the characters that are introduced throughout the book. And I think that's what makes it so effective at delivering what it does, because you meet all these different characters and the way they narrate the situation at hand gives you sort of an idea of who they are and what they're about. Peter Swanson does this in a sort of subtle way. It definitely plays on your moral compass, and that's what's so interesting about it, the kind worth killing and who is worth killing. What's so fascinating about the book. The next book that I'm going to be reviewing is this one. It's by an author called Luvvie Ajayi, and it's called I Am Judging You. I got this book on a whim. I was just on Amazon looking for new reads, and it only just recently came out. I thought, I like the cover. I think it's great, and I'm so glad that I picked it up. It kind of reads as somebody who's sort of conversing with their friend. Each chapter is divided into different topics that she's exploring. It covers bad manners, social media, trivia, but also some heavy topics such as feminism and Christianity. This book is hilarious. It's so funny, mainly because she uses a lot of similes. I think her writing style lends itself very well to somebody who's sort of in their 20s and clued up with pop culture, but also interested in some of the heavy topics that I mentioned in here. It seems very authentic, from the heart, and really quite funny. And I've also recently found out that the author has a blog called Awesomely Luvvie, which I have been on, and it's just incredibly hilarious. Another interesting thing that I found out about this book is the little blurb at the back was written by another really cool YouTuber that I follow called Issa Rae, and she's amazing. She's now got a show on HBO, so I'll definitely be checking that out as well. One of the reviews here says, perfect, starting important and meaty discussions about the topics your mama told you never to bring up at polite dinner parties. And that's exactly what this book is. Just, she doesn't hold back on anything and just gives her opinion, and it's all about her judging you, basically. I think from a sort of language change and social media sort of way, it definitely has a lot of content in there that's really interesting and exciting. So if you want an easy read, you're interested in pop culture, but also, as the review says here, meaty topics that you can't really discuss at the dinner table with your mama, then definitely read this book. It's really funny. I could not stress that enough. She's also been nominated for an award on how funny this book is. I forget the award, but definitely check that out. Yeah, I love this book. It's honest, it's witty, it's intelligent, it's not pretentious. So yeah, very good book. And the last book that I'm going to be reviewing today is this one. This is the only work by this amazing lady that I haven't read, and so I was quite pleased to get my hands on this book. And it's by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. It's called The Thing Around Your Neck. It's basically a collection of short stories all bundled up into one. It has two sort of main themes. One of them is politics, and the other one is centered around being stranded in a strange place and trying to sort of navigate your way through. I'm just going to give you a little recap of each story. All the stories are sort of told from a first-person narrative, I think with the exception of a couple. Chimamanda is fantastic at introducing contemporary political and culture issues to an audience that may not really be well educated about that area. Her writing can, I guess, be described as being deceptively simple, because on the face of it, it looks as though they're easy reads, but there is a lot going on, and that's what I love so much about her. You read the book the second time or the third time, and you get a sort of more nuanced appreciation of the book. It's gripping, and some of the stories have some sort of historical context, which makes them all the more interesting. So the first story is called Cell 1, and it's about a young woman's brother who's kind of lost his way in life. He's constantly under the threat of imprisonment until he does get imprisoned, and then it just explores his, I guess, journey of growth. and it was really gripping as well, really, really interesting. Towards the end, I was like, oh no, I really want this to carry on. It's definitely something that I'd like her to explore a little bit more, because it also deals with family dimensions and family relations. The next one is called A Private Experience. It's about two women who find themselves hiding underneath this abandoned shop whilst there is a riot going on at a marketplace. One of them is Hausa Muslim and the other one is Christian Evil, and these two cultures normally don't relate to each other very well. However, what's so beautiful about this story is that even in the midst of the riot and the fact that these two cultures aren't normally friendly towards each other, they both find comfort in being there for each other. So I guess this is a story about humanity, and also educates the reader on the differences that exist within Africa, specifically Nigeria, and the two cultures and culture clashes. The next one is called American Embassy, about a woman who's waiting in a queue to go to the American Embassy, as the title suggests, and it's told from a sort of first-person narrative, so you really get into the mind of this lady, and she just sort of elaborates on why she's there and what has happened to her previously. You discover she's had quite a traumatic experience, and so she would like to seek asylum, which is quite justified considering what she's been through. Basically a story about that. Ghost is another really well written and probably another one of my favorites as well. It's about a chance encounter of two men who are currently retired. The last time these two men saw each other was during a riot, a historical event called the Biafran War. The story is basically a conversation between the two of them about the passage of time and why they're both in this place at this point in time. This is a really interesting story. I love it for several reasons. One of them is I love when Chimamanda writes about men and writes them in a sort of sympathetic light. I think it shows just how powerful of a writer she is, that she can sort of give nuanced narratives of men and women. And secondly, I love it because it explores the passage of time, and it kind of has a sort of nostalgic feel to it. So it's nice. It's a comfy, cushy story. And the stories that deal with being in a sort of culture clash or being in an unfamiliar place are, I think, the best written stories, but they're not my favorite ones. One of them is called Imitation and Arrangers of Marriage. It's pretty self-explanatory. The next one is called On Monday of Last Week. Jumping Monkey Hill is another quite interesting one. It's about a young lady who travels from Nigeria to East Africa to go and join a retreat with several other writers from different parts of Africa, and sort of explores the Pan-African scene, and also explores ethnocentrism of Africa. It's just basically about that. The last story is called Headstrong Historian, and I feel as though this is kind of odd one out. So yeah, I didn't really think it fitted in well with this collection, but definitely a wonderful collection overall. So there you have it, guys. Those are all the books that I've read in the past month. Thank you so much for watching this video. My favorite one out of all the books that I've read is Black Like Me, simply because it felt close to my heart and in a really sort of strange way, a way that I never would have expected. I really think they were great picks for this month, so I'd recommend all of them. If you have read any of them, definitely let me know down below what you think, and if you haven't, go out there and get these books and read them. Let me know what you guys think. I would love to read your opinions on them as well, and have a discussion with you guys. Until next time, bye guys. Picture a couple of years back, and so yeah, I think it's very fitting that actually my first book review is in October. So I hope you enjoy this video.